Here.
OJ. Abel.
Here.
Murray.
Here.
Mayor Box. Vice Mayor Brown.
Here. All right, at this time, Tommy, are you going to be doing the invocation for us this evening? Please come forward. Tell us if there's anything new going on at your church.
You left Dylan.
Dylan. I thought
And
Dylan
the
was behind me.
And the associate pastor is with you.
Well, this is my 6-year-old Dylan, as many of you know, and he goes pretty much everywhere I go. And for the last few council meetings, he hadn't been with me. He's been missing you guys, and wanted to make sure he was with me today. So say hello, son.
Hey.
All right. Well, we are thoroughly grateful for what God's doing through our ministry, and we are getting ready for our 3rd church anniversary, which is going to be Sunday, November 9th at 9 a.m. And so can't believe it's already been 3 years since we've been ministry here in the Jenks community. We've thoroughly, okay, you're heavy, son. I'm going to put you down. You heavy, son. All right. He said, no, you're not. Right. But we are thoroughly grateful, very grateful for the city of Jenks, the community of Jenks. And you guys have been so loving and kind to us, and we're grateful to be able to celebrate our 3rd year anniversary in November, on Sunday, the 9th of November. So thank you for allowing me, Mr. Brown, to share a moment in regards to what's going on in our church. All right, let's pray. Father, we're grateful for this meeting tonight. We just pray blessings, God, upon this meeting, and we ask, oh God, that you guide our meeting tonight. May it be all that you would have it to be. Speak, Lord. Have your way in this meeting tonight. Continue to have your way in our city. And we thank you, God, for the blessings that you've blessed Jenks with. We thank you, God, for what you've done, for what you're doing, and for what you're going to do. We thank you, God, in advance for what you're getting ready to do. Again, we pray blessings upon our meeting tonight. May it be all that you would have it to be. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless you all.
Do we have an animal spotlight for this evening? No animal spotlight. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Mayor, members of council, we do not have an animal spotlight tonight, other than the fact that I'm going to be up here to give you some good news. So the 5 puppies that we had birthed in the pound, that a couple of them were up here last time, we have a group coming to pick them up tonight. That is why we don't have an animal control officer here. They're facilitating that. So that's good. So we will be moving them down the road, and hopefully they will find good forever homes. All right? Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, at this time, we will open the floor up for 3-minute citizen comments on any item that is not on the agenda. Please come forward and state your name and address, please.
Sure. Justin Little, 10531 South Coa. Today, me and other residents sent letters to the city of Jenks, to Ms. Nolan and to Chris Shrout, in regards to Title 11, Section 8108 of the Oklahoma statutes. That statute reads, whenever a member of a municipal governing body is absent for more than 1/2 of all meetings of the governing body, regular and special, held with any period of 4 consecutive months, he shall thereupon cease to hold office. Corey Box, going back to May, has been absent on 6/3, present on 6/17, present on 7/1, present on 7/15, present on 8/5, absent 8/15, absent 8/19, absent 9/2, and obviously absent 9/16, now obviously absent tonight. While many other attendance statutes, such as those for public schools, include exceptions for certain absences, this statute contains no exceptions for allowances for excused absences. It provides a strict automatic outcome based solely on the mathematical calculation of absences over a 4-month period. The removal from office is automatic upon exceeding the absence threshold. It does not require a vote by other governing members. This contrasts with cities that have municipal charters, like Carnegie, Oklahoma, which allows for the remaining trustees to vote to retain the member. The provision is not part of the state statute. The law emphasizes the importance of governing body members' physical presence at meetings to conduct municipal business. The reason for the absence is not a factor in determining whether or not the statute is triggered. And at this point, it has come between 5 out of 9 absences to 6 out of 10. The statute has been triggered.
Thank you, and I will respond to that. We'll take no other questions about this particular issue. There were some questions regarding the scheduled absences of the mayor in advance, and there were some interpretation questions as to the statute itself, and council has consulted with other representatives within the state and has been directed to make a formal request to the state, whether or not that will be to the state's attorney general or the legislature. That is in motion at this time, and we won't be taking any action on it, but we will be looking for state direction, and we will notify the community once we find out what that direction is from the state. Thank you for your comment.
When the state's back in session, or when the Senate's back and the House is back?
As soon as we have a formal response back, it likely will not come from the legislature if they're not in session, which is why we've discussed whether or not it will be an appropriate action to go to the Attorney General. Thank you. Were there any other comments about anything that's not on the agenda?
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. I'm Angie Dunce. I'm with the Jenks Chamber of Commerce. Want to let you know that tonight in attendance, we do have some of our leadership Jenks Class 38 members. They will be attending over the next three meetings, just as it works for their schedule. But part of the leadership class this year is to come and observe a city council meeting. So just wanted to let you know that we will have part of our class here over the next 3 meetings. That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. If I could suspend the normal order just momentarily, could we have your individuals that are in the class stand and just introduce themselves briefly?
Just a little 105.1 South.
Okay.
I think you all know who I am.
Yeah.
Rochelle Hewitt, 10141 South and 77. Do you guys want to know anything about me or just for?
I'll give you a minute or two if you want to say anything about yourself.
I just want to know how things work, and so I'm joining.
Very good.
Hi, I'm April Kissinger with Beck Design. We're an architectural firm, and happy to be here.
I'm Hannah Dobb. I am the marketing director for the Tulsa Premium Outlets.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for making the time commitment to do this. This is actually what you're doing right now was how things started for me back in 1990 with Leadership Jenks. So learn as much as you possibly can. I can tell you that if you start now, I started back in 1990, and a week does not go by where there's something new that I learned myself. So it is a continual learning process, and people that think that you can just step up into these roles just to volunteer like any other type of civic position or club or association, it's not. There's a lot of responsibility. So thank you for making the time commitment, being interested in the community, and being committed to this program. Thank you. Were there any other citizens' comments? All right, hearing none, we'll move on with the regular order of business. We have a consent agenda before you. If anyone would like to have any items pulled or any actions on the consent agenda?
I make a motion to pass the consent agenda as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. On the vote, please.
Short,
Yes.
Emmons,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Abel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes. Okay, so no items pulled from the consent agenda, so we'll strike item 2. Moving on to item number 3, resolution number 880, declaring .78 acres of real property located generally near Jenks High School as surplus and conveyed to Jenks Public Schools. Do we have a presentation on this?
Sorry, I don't get around as fast as I used to. Vice Mayor and members of council, the agenda item that you've got before you today has to do with the Jenks tennis courts and the parking lot. You had received a memo previously that had a lot of detail in it, and there was some questions asked at that time about some of the design considerations. I put together this handout that you got to try and get into some more details. Jenks Public Schools is planning to make improvements to their tennis facility, and if you look at exhibit number 1, it shows what the concept plan is for that. I think there was some misunderstanding previously about where that was going to be built, and what's happening is they're building it south of the existing facility into the parking lot. A lot of improvements are being made to that facility. It was originally built by a family using their own funds, and there was a lot of space that was not appropriately utilized. So what they're trying to do at this point is to increase the number of locker rooms. It's a 2-story structure now, and they'll have locker rooms for both boys and girls, and restrooms and offices and meeting room, ticket sales area, storage, and then upstairs there's outside viewing areas and restrooms. In order to do this expansion, they need to be expanding into the parking lot to the south, and with that being done, there's an existing retention pond, which you would find in the lower right-hand corner of that drawing, where the road curves through the parking lot. That's an existing retention pond, and that pond, when it was built designed with riprap embankments, which made it extremely difficult to get mowers and equipment in there to maintain that pond very effectively. What they're going to be doing is filling that pond in and providing additional parking in that location. That's shown on Exhibit 2, where they're going to move that retention pond into the area that we're talking about allowing them to have. The new retention pond would be constructed on the property that they're acquiring from us, which is shown now on Exhibit 3. The pond is slightly larger to accommodate increased runoff. All the stormwater from the parking lot originally was sheet flowing into that pond and caused some erosion along the edges of the pond. And it's now going to be piped into the pond. and the banks will be turfed, they'll be mowable, and they'll be able to be maintained. We will continue to be pumping stormwater into that pond that will come from our detention pond that's immediately east of there on H Street. It's not shown on this drawing, but it was shown in the previous memorandum, I believe. We also, a few years ago, down on the very bottom of this drawing, there was some stormwater issues with one of the residents right immediately across the street from the high school. And we, the city of Jenks, went in and did some grading and laid some pipe to be able to collect that stormwater. And the closest place for it to go was into an inlet at the southeast corner of the parking lot. And then that water would flow up along the east boundary of the parking lots into the detention pond. And that's what's going to happen in this case also. The land that we're proposing to allow them to have was an old landfill. Now, it's been a number of years since it ever was had anything put into it. Excuse me, but when Jenks Public Schools went to investigate what it might take in order to make this landfill into a retention pond, they had some difficulty even getting some soil samples because the company that was hired couldn't get through some of that material, so they had to dig it out. They found that there could be up to 8 to 10 feet of material that needs to come out of there, which is going to cost a considerable amount of money, but the construction department at JPS estimates it'd be between $50,000 and $100,000 to remove that debris, and I believe that's probably the case. So a couple other things to keep into consideration. That there, on the north side of where the tennis courts is, there's a retention pond up there also. That was constructed when we did improvements to K Place roughly, I'm going to guess, maybe 10 years ago. And we had an agreement at that point that, well, maybe 10 to 15 years. We had agreed, not formally, it wasn't brought to city council for approval, but there was an understanding that if the tennis courts were to expand, then the property at the west end of 8th Street could be used for additional stormwater uses, which is what we're talking about today. One other thing in their layout that you can maybe go back one. The way it's being laid out now, you can see that the road or their drive lane is able to be brought and curved when it gets up just to the south of the tennis courts. They wanted to do that because right now the road through there is a straight line and they get a lot of speeding cars going through there. I can't imagine why the high school kids would do that after school, but that's what they're doing. So this layout is going to allow for some modifications to that also. Generally, what we're saying here is that this is a new pond is a regional pond. It's dressing up what is there today, for getting rid of materials that shouldn't be in the ground there, and providing stormwater retention from conveyance on F Street. So we're requesting that you approve of the resolution that's before you to allow for this transfer of property. It's definitely in accordance with state law. We would receive a significant benefit in the consideration in them doing this in this area. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I know that there's a representative here from the schools also, if you need to have them come and give any more detail.
Are there any questions from council? Okay, I do have a question, and this whether or not Mr. Byers can address this or you should address it. I do have a few concerns that I've voiced about this. Number one, because this is a declaration of surplus property and then conveyance to the school, the intended use would not go before public comment. And the concern that I have is, number one, and I'll just kind of pose this in the form of questions. The assumption is that the existing riprap retention pond will be leveled, expanded.
It'll be filled in and parking lot would be built on it.
And I know the question I had was on the expansion of the parking lot because the current north end of the parking lot is rarely used. And in fact, where you mentioned the students driving through, they actually have a gate that is closed during the day to prevent students from accessing the exit on the north end. I can see with the expanded size of the facility where reclaiming parking spaces by expanding, I can see the value of that. But the concern that I do have is the land that we're talking about right now currently drains, perks. After high rains, water does not stand. Whereas the water table and the existing design on the current pond, there's always water in there. It's a swamp. And this particular lot backs up against 2 or 3 residential homes that are on First Street. And the question I have is, will they be adversely impacted by having a new retention pond if that pond will hold water or if it's going to drain properly? Again, there would not be an opportunity for the public to provide comment in opposition to this, but I would think if I were backed up against that site and a new pond were going to go in, based upon where water stands right now in the existing pond, that their homes would be negatively impacted. So I'd like to hear your thoughts as an engineer as to the proposed design. How close is it going to come to the property line? Is that entire lot going to be dug out as a pond? Is it going to be leveled? You mentioned that it'll be sodded in, but on behalf of those residents, I'd like to hear some feedback as to how we will prevent those homes from becoming adjacent to a new swamp.
Well, the engineer that did the layout on this had some calculations and showed the square footage and the depth that pond would go in order to handle the stormwater. It looked to me like it was most of that entire site that would have to be dug out and made into a bermed and sodded detention pond. They also had data that showed that the percolation rate in there, they estimated about 15 inches per hour percolation rate, and they had some other data in the area that showed that the actual percolation rate would be twice that. So whether there would be water standing in the pond or not would be hard to say until they start excavating and see what they really have to do there. Now, part of the agreement that we've got with them says that they are responsible for maintaining. So if there's some issue that has to do with mosquitoes or anything else in that pond, then we would expect them to take those steps. The fencing that's there, stockade fencing, will stay up and surround that area also. So I don't know any other ways to answer your question.
Again, the concern is the existing pond, there's always water standing in it. The pond to the north of the tennis courts currently, it does drain properly. After a heavy rain, it's normally drained fully within 24 hours. And I would assume that the city actually is my understanding, the city constructed that during the K Place?
Yes.
So again, what oversight will we have on the construction of this, or is the construction going to be all on the school?
Well, as part of our stormwater criteria that we need to achieve with the state of Oklahoma, we would most likely look at this also, because all detention ponds are inspected by us on a regular basis also. So we would watch the construction, but most of that observation would be for them to do. I mean, it's their project.
So currently, the city maintains that lot. Will the school be maintaining it after conveyance then? 'Cause again, my concern is we've got that pond, we've got the existing pond, and then there's also an area to the east of the baseball field that's a small detention pond that also has issues with draining that has not been properly maintained. So again, I want to make sure that on behalf of the residents that are backed up against this, that this is not going to turn into an unmaintained swamp.
Well, the agreement that we have with them says that they will maintain the pond.
Okay, all right. Those are my only questions. Anybody else? All right, does anybody want to hear from the applicant or the school? Okay. All right, we have an issue before you. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to pass resolution 880 as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a vote, please?
Short,
Yes.
Emmons,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Abel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Box.
Not here at the time.
Okay. Vice Mayor Brown.
Abstain. All right, the motion passes. Moving on to item number 4, ordinance 1671 relating to JZ 25 PUD 154. Marseille?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Brown, council and staff. I really cannot. Lots of allergies going on. Okay, I think that's better. This is a rezoning from Ag to RS2 request with a PUD overlay, which is a planned unit development. The number here is PUD 154. The general location is half a mile south of 131st and about a half a mile west of Harvard. So this item came before the Planning Commission on August 7th, and it was conditionally approved. We had one planning commissioner absent at that time. It came to City Council on August the 19th. At that time, a motion was made to conditionally approve, and it deviated somewhat from the motion made by the Planning Commission. The motion then failed, and no additional motion was made. So the project itself did not fail, but because another motion was not made, they were neither approved nor denied. With that being said, we put on the agenda as an item on September 16th, 2025, to announce to the public that the City Council would have a second hearing on this item. There were a couple of things. We received an email on September 16th. I don't know if I said that. I might have said that backwards. September 16th, I received an email, and the words are in italics down there. Mr. Dodson, the developer, said we will do 3 lots for the pool, playground, and amenities, and that seemed to be a sticking point for the council. I believe that that was very important to you all. And they said they would remain at 2,400 square feet minimum for the homes, with the exception of 20% be set aside for 2,200 square feet for 1 story. I think if you speak with the applicant, they will explain that he has a product that is specifically designed for senior living and lifestyle. And that product is around 2,200 square feet, and he would like to keep that as an option. That being said, we'll go to page 82. The zoning information that I put in here, I think I ended up, that yellow highlight was my note to take that out, so I apologize. It has been updated, I believe. And one thing I will say is, in a few minutes, we'll see in the actual PUD document that this is an 8,000 minimum square foot lot. It does not reflect that in the adjusted PUD document. That was an error. I did not catch it until actually one of our citizens sent me an email and asked about it. And I was like, oh. And I did confirm. I stepped out of the meeting a few minutes ago with the applicant, who is Eric Inyart from Tanner Consulting, and I asked him to confirm that they are, in fact, going with 8,000 square feet, and I can confirm that he said yes. And then I came right back into the meeting. So that I highlighted in blue those changes. They do ask for an exception to their signage. We talked about that. I'm going to try to get before you all, I believe, in November, our sign code. I'll take it to Planning Commission first, and we're going to adjust some of those things in the sign code, because it needs to be adjusted. And then street links, that has been identified both times. At the top of the page, it talks about impervious surface coverage. And in a lot of the correspondence and comments that we've received from the public, this has been kind of a little bit confusing. I had a citizen reach out to me today and said that maybe I complicated it or didn't articulate it well. So I'm not going to dive deep into it, because it's really an engineering issue, and I'm not going to say what is what, because I don't put on my engineering hat ever. So there you go. I'm a planner. I love to be a planner. I'm not an engineer, and I'm pretty sure we don't have any engineers on council. So with that being said, the impervious surface coverage, I'll get it out here in a second, is requested at 69%. So today I did a little test, and I picked 3 random lots in Providence Hills. One had a 1,700 square foot home, and they exceeded the 45% that we allow with no pool or accessories. I picked 2 more homes, one with a pool, which far exceeded the 45%. And the other one, I can't remember. Brandon, did it have a pool? Do you remember? I don't think it did. It was just a very large house on a very small lot, which is what we like in Jenks, very large houses on very small lots. And that one also exceeded the 45% by quite a large amount. So with that being said, the great advantage of saying from day one, we're going to allow 69% or whatever number a developer asks for, rather than what the UDO says, is that that consultant, that engineering firm, can now engineer the project per the impervious surface coverage that they want. So if they have a standard hydrology study that they use that has X and Y, whatever, some equation that's beautiful and long and complicated, whatever that is, and it equals 45% or less, well, they now can plug in different numbers and get a better hydrology result, a more accurate hydrology result. In the city of Jenks, if you have a lot deep enough, most of our citizens like a pool. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And most of our lots that are currently built on and lived on and in homes that are beautiful and wonderful and have pools would never meet our impervious surface coverage requirements. So I don't know if I can say it differently, but if you have more questions, I'd be happy to follow up personally. But that's kind of the sum of it. I'm trying to help the council and the citizens have a product that they want, and they want their own amenities often. And in this case, these lots are large enough and deep enough for the additional pool house, cabana, whatever. And in addition to that, the applicant has provided the amenities that you all requested. That's probably about all I'm going to say. I did hear from Tory Lakes. I think I forwarded that to you all. I tried to forward it to you all and other staff and the developer. I heard from Providence Hills. You should have received that one. I heard from the Pinkstons who live in Snow Tree. Clarification, that particular subdivision does have a step out for a street. It's very specific. There's a width of X feet, and it was always intended to go north. So for the record, that is the correct statement. On, there's also a lot in Snow Tree. I believe it is the Pinkstons lot that does have an overland drainage easement, and that does allow for water to be conveyed across the lot. So when you hear about properties and it sounds and feels scary sometimes because water is not all captured, sometimes there is an overland drainage easement, and that easement is there to allow water to flow over, hence the title. And that's about as deep as I get into hydrology. So let's see. I did add in this staff report, there was some conversation about traffic calming. And Mr. Ed Phillips sent an email that was very detailed and made some recommendations on traffic calming. I've reached out to our public safety, including fire and police, and just said, hey, maybe we could have a broader conversation about some of these neighborhoods, especially where they're a little denser, where the streets are a little bit longer, and we can talk about what signage would be applicable. But the standards that I included are what we would allow as a city. The fire department is not generally in favor, I should say ever, I think with confidence, in favor of speed bumps, just for the record. I'll say that for them. Okay, on page 91 is the second page of the PUD. I tried to go through and highlight the things that they had added. If it's in yellow, I believe it's new. Pink is just things that we normally look for in PUDs. And then on page 93 is the updated site plan. I put a red bubble around the amenities that they've added. Also, you'll see that that's where that detention area is, and that little cutout piece that was to accommodate additional drainage previously when Tory Lakes was built. On page 94, right there in the middle where it says minimum lot size, it says this PUD is 7,100, and that's where if you want to take a pencil, if you keep these documents or a pen, and you want to highlight that it's actually 8,000. And I apologize, I don't know why I didn't catch that, but I didn't. Minimum dwelling size, I highlighted this because this is where they are asking for that exception of 2,400 square feet with a maximum of 20% at 2,200. On page 96, there's something added there, and then on page 97. I do like that they've committed themselves to the pool construction shall be initiated within 24 months after the first building permit. That's something that most developers do not commit to. It's something we've talked about because it is frustrating when you don't know when those amenities are going to be implemented. I apologize for this very scratchy throat. That is all I have at this time. If you have any other questions for me, I will be happy to try and answer them. Otherwise, the consultant is present and the developer is present.
Thank you, Ms. Hilton. Any questions from council? No questions from council. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, this was, again, previously opened up for public comment, both the Planning Commission and the last meeting, and they have addressed concerns that were raised from the last presentation. I will open it up for public comment for anyone who did previously had not had the opportunity to comment on this particular issue. Because there have been some amendments. If you've not previously commented on this, if you'd like to add Any feedback to the discussion before we act on it? I will open the floor.
Hello, my name is Brian Bowler. I live at 2629 East 138th Place South. That's in Snow Tree. I am the Pinkstons' next door neighbor. The Pinkstons have dealt with water issues since they have moved in and have spent a lot of their own money to create a decent drainage system for what is there now. I don't think anybody realizes how much water comes off that tract of land. If we get a heavy rain, we have drainage easements in the back of our lots. Those fill up, and then for days after a heavy rain, water runs through mine and my neighbors and the Pinkstons' lots and everybody else down the street. Water runs down through there. So I just want to throw that in there that it's very important about the impervious water drainage. We are very concerned with the fact that it has been bumped up to 69%, I guess, of the lot, which if you would just see what a heavy rain does out there, it would surprise you that that has been bumped up to that much. And of course, I want people to have pools. I got a pool. Pinkstons have a pool. But the drainage there is our most serious problem we have there. It hadn't been a problem. The Pinkstons took care of it. And but still, the water runoff is unbelievable off that tract of land. But let me go ahead and get to my little verbiage here. We appreciate the council's willingness to serve on the behalf of the citizens of Jenks. We appreciate and thank Councilman Murray for listening to the end consideration of input as homeowners in Ward 3. We also want to acknowledge that the developer of Row 40, Rick Dotson, has been very willing to meet with us and regarding the proposal and to hear out our concerns, and then greatly appreciate his willingness to work with us. During the August 19th City Council meeting, our concerns were shared relating to the rezoning application of PUD 154. We continue to have a strong concern specifically over drainage containment and traffic increase affecting Snow Tree neighborhood. We ask that the council consider the following concerns and request regarding drainage and traffic as it has to rezoning application of PUD 154 and suggest that it is critical that each of these items be resolved prior to the council meeting on rezoning. Drainage. We continue to be concerned with the maximum impervious surface coverage percentage exceeds what is permitted by city code. When you look at the 24% increase, it actually results in an additional 53% variance from code.
Mr. Bowler, I'll need to stop you now because we're beyond to 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I am going to be a little bit more structured on maintaining that 3-minute rule, but thank you for your
Totally
comments.
understand.
I appreciate that.
Okay, I just want y'all to think about the drainage.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Hi, my name is Jason Clymer. I live at 2621 East 138th Place South. I'm Brian's neighbor. I want to reiterate what he said. I am an engineer, so when I hear people say they're not engineers or no one's an engineer, that existing plan of 49% or 45% that was determined by some group of people that put a lot of thought and time into that. And just to hear it get blown away like it's no big deal and you're increasing it 50%. And then again, in an area where we already have a drainage issue, I struggle to see why that's acceptable. If we think it's a nonsense number, then the council needs to reset that number. And so we do have these drainage issues, like he said, the Pinkstons, when they put in Torrey Lakes or whatever, I mean, all this runoff easement they had was overflowed. I mean, they had to spend, I think he said around $60,000 of their money to fix that. And I know that Mr. Dotson has put a lot of time, and you can see what he's done to try and mitigate that. I don't know who's going to look over his plan after it's done. Does someone in the city do that? I honestly don't know. But I'd like to see that I'd like to know the answer to that. Is it going to be approved by somebody? And as far as traffic in our area, all those of us that live down there bought, to the south and the west, bought houses with half-acre plus lots for minimal traffic and, just a nicer area. The people to the north and the east, they bought small lots, higher volume. That's what they signed up for. We didn't. So we're going to funnel all this extra traffic down through our neighborhoods when I don't think it's required by law, if my understanding is right. You have to have 2 exits out of the neighborhood, and there already are that. So I'd like to see, I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. I understand progress has to be made. That pasture is going to have houses in it, but I'd like to see these things accounted for somehow. And I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll bring it back. Oh, sorry.
Catherine Lenhart, 777 West 106th Street South, Jenks, Oklahoma. As a citizen who has attended these meetings and viewed them pretty regularly, we often ask questions just out of curiosity as to the process. And this is one of those instances where this is very compartmentalized, and also, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it's a good opportunity to inform the public or even the applicant and the nearby residents. We have an engineer that's in the room, and I just want to understand, and I've asked this several times, why no one asked the engineer that is paid by city staff for input at this time. So I'm curious, is it sufficient what's written in the report if the planner says? And then also, as part of the planning process, I think certain permits are required. So maybe, put us up to date on what's been executed.
I'll respond to that. And
Thank
again,
you.
this is a zoning. Thank you for that question. This is a zoning question. And of course, we'll have to go to plating. And part of that process, before the first shovel of dirt is turned, there'll have to be a complete hydrology report that will be submitted for city approval and evaluation. Am I correct on that, Mrs. Hilton? So again, the hydrology is there. The question did come up about the impervious surface coverage, and there is some question as to whether or not we need to review that. The very fact that, looking, as Mrs. Hilton mentioned, the fact that we've evaluated some other developments within the community that do not meet those standards, I think this is going to be something we bring back to determine whether or not what we adopted in the UDO and what we use for PUD standards is something we should be following, or if there's other mitigating things that we should be looking at. So that will be something we take up. But thank you for that question.
But I don't think you answered my question.
Okay, what was the?
I said we have an engineer in the room who could maybe address something, or are you telling me that occurs during the planning process?
Yeah, again, the planning will have to come first to know exactly how the streets will be laid out, because again, this is a zoning issue. It's not a planning
But the engineer
issue.
is also the floodplain administrator for the state, and currently, yes, the maps are not available through the Jenks website. They're not loading to get that information readily. So that's the other reason I'm asking.
We will turn to Mrs. Hilton with a response
Okay.
on that then.
Thank you. Would you like a copy?
Second event this week that someone handed me a cough drop. I might need an allergy shot. Thank you for that question. The primary reason that we don't jump into the weeds on engineering and ask the engineer to come up, the hydrology report is created originally from an outside engineer. And so that organization is responsible. They will ultimately stamp those drawings per all of the regulations from our city, from our state, and any federal regulations. We don't have any idea if the hydrology issue cannot be solved, then a project cannot be built. And our city engineer does not create those drawings. They only review them, and they have not been reviewed. And taking an opinion on an engineering question at this phase would be unmerited because they have not spent the dollars or the time to evaluate the hydrology. They usually know enough, which you see a large, I believe Mr. Morgan said, there's basically a moat around this site. So they know that there is a vast amount of hydrology to be done. And so they've done some very minor calculations. And as I present a project, the decision to be made this evening is whether or not houses should be built at this location and whether or not the density is applicable and appropriate for this location. And water, sewer, stormwater, all of that is decided in the future, and it is not part of the conversation for this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Hilton. Any other questions for council? Mr. Murray?
Okay. I'm a little confused on some of this, which is not out of the ordinary. I know that Mr. Dotson and his group are wanting to develop this, and I don't have a problem with their wanting to develop it and have a development. But in improving this, I think we're kind of, to me, bypassing some of the issues that residents are bringing up. And, you know, part of it being the water. I know when Tory Lakes went in, hydrology reports were done, but there was still flooding. So I get concerned when we talk about, okay, well, that's down the line. And I'm not saying, Marseille, anything on that. But then when I look at the plan, and I appreciate Mr. Dotson taking part of the land to put in a pool and the clubhouse and stuff. But to me, the pool is right next to that retention pond. Normally, pools are drained into a detention pond. So looking at it as an outsider, they're adding more water to what could be a problem. Does that make sense? Okay.
Well, the capacity of any pond, whether it's detention or retention, should be calculated such that it can affect, it can handle whatever rainfall or whatever goes into it.
Okay.
So that nothing is coming out at a faster rate than onto any other property than was previously.
But I'm just trying to head it off before it becomes a worse problem, that the neighbors are concerned about it running off because you've got the Tory Lakes area that runs into it, and then it runs off into this addition to the south. I talked last time about the traffic issues. That's going to be inevitable, no matter who builds in there, having property or having the land and the use. I don't know if we can maybe restrict construction traffic to utilize certain roads, but then we're putting that heavy equipment on certain roads through certain neighborhoods, so it's kind of tearing up those roads. I don't know that the city can go in and put in a separate street because there's not really any room to do that on. And so I would love for a magic wand to say, okay, we'll put a street in and we can take care of the problems in the neighborhoods. I talked to Chief Jackson about the police checking the area as requested, maybe intermittently. They do it. It doesn't have to be asked for. They'll check on things. Do we know a exact fact of what the speed limit is on the side street, like South 20th? It's not posted that I'm aware of. I haven't been through there in a while. It could be 20, it could be 25. If it's 25, maybe we lower it to 20 to kind of offset the issue of maybe speeders through there. Having speed bumps doesn't always answer the problems. Maybe another stop sign, and I know it was requested by a couple of the neighborhoods of putting in a stop sign into their different areas to help keep people slowed down, and that's what we want to do for everybody, no matter what neighborhood it is. So I just throwing out, I'm still, the traffic part, I know we can kind of get through because whatever's going to develop, if it's Mr. Dotson or whoever goes in there and builds, they're going to have to get in there. We can't restrict them from not having access to a development, and I understand that. I'd just like to throw out my points from traffic safety issues, but the others is just the water issues and the impervious surface coverings. I don't know what we can do about that. If you've measured some and some were outside of those limits, Providence Hills, I believe, was built before I got on council. I could be wrong. So I don't know that I had any issues with that. But if we need to set a precedence and not continue down this line of every developer is going to go a little higher and a little higher and a little higher, without changing it, like was mentioned, we need to stick by our guns on something. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Murray. Are there any other comments? Any other questions? All right. And I will just offer one comment. I know this will come back for plating. I did read the comments that came in. Mr. Phillips, again, you're a brilliant mind. I just want to make sure that when we bring this back to plating it, we look at some of those traffic calming features, suggestions.
Yes, I will. I've already reached out to both chiefs, Jackson and Ostrom, about a better plan as we move forward, specifically for this. But I think knowing that there is a collector street that runs through there, really addressing the entire collector street and not just the new subdivision. And I think it's really important anytime our citizens see that there's a consistent issue with an intersection or a street where they're just not slowing down, it's absolutely important to call 911 and we can always take a look at, is there appropriate signage? Are the speed limits appropriate? I don't know how often it's less than 20 or less than 25, but certainly willing to look at that. And I think that's just about it. Did I answer that question?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, on the issue, again, zoning question and density appropriate. We have a motion. What's your pleasure?
Since this is a rezoning issue at this point in time, I'm going to vote to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. On the issue, please.
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
No.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes. All right, motion carries. And let's see, are we on the emergency clause on this one? Yeah, so we have item number 5, the emergency clause for ordinance 1671. I can't talk tonight.
Make a motion to approve the emergency clause as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the emergency clause, item number 5. On the vote, please.
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes. Moving on, item number 6, ordinance number 1674, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Article 1, Section 36 of the City Code. And there's a number of issues that are in there. We have a presentation, please.
Yes, Vice Mayor, members of council, we are seeking to amend Section 13-136 in our nuisance code. This is related to the removal of dilapidated buildings. These amendments are designed to make our ordinance more closely conform to state law. The primary reason we need this is the change to subsection F4, and that is the definition of dilapidated building. It currently reads, for the purpose of this section, the term dilapidated building means a structure that has been boarded and secured for more than 36 months, while state law was changed several years ago to a structure which has been boarded and secured for more than 6 consecutive months. So as you can see, state law is much stricter than our current ordinance. So staff recommends changing that to be the same as state law. And a couple other changes were made that are more of a house cleaning thing. There was a correction from court clerk to city clerk in subsection E. We also added some of the language from the statute to better explain how the liens and cost proceed. And also in subsection C, we added a sentence that adds the time for filing an appeal from the governing body's decision. So if you have any questions about the actual ordinance, I'm happy to answer them. If you have code enforcement questions, I defer to Chief Jackson.
Were there any questions on the ordinance?
Ms. Nowlin, is there any distinction between a commercial building and a residential building?
Good question.
Generally, no.
Okay.
There's not.
Okay, thank you.
Very good question. Anyone else?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the ordinance change of 1674, Chapter 13, Article 1, and all
Second.
and so forth.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. On the motion, please.
Short,
Yes.
Emmons,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Abel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes, and I like the language and the changes. Item number 7, emergency clause for ordinance number 1674.
Motion to approve?
Second?
We have a motion and a second.
Short,
Yes.
Emmons,
Yep.
Ogier,
Yes.
Abel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes. Moving on, item number 8, change order number 3 in the amount of $463,353.07, dealing with a contract with Paragon Contractors.
All right. Good evening, Vice Mayor and members of council. We're actually doing a little work at the 121st Elm Street intersection along Elm Widening project. And as we're looking at stabilization of the roadway, what we found in the area is that we have a portion of the street where we're widening it, and the soil is a little bit, we'll call it a lot of clays in the soil. So that's what this change order is addressing, because if we cannot compact that soil, we need to go ahead and be able to remediate that soil level so we can get a good base under the soil. And now the issue is that doing design, some of the time moments we were designing it, we had a couple of locations where we did do potholes, but we should have really performed a few more potholes in the area. And no matter what, we would have had to change out this soil if we would have potholed and identified it. It just would have been as part of the original contract. So the request here is to a change order in the amount of $463,353.07. And this is a ultimate look at the alignment. We don't want to come back again and talk about this area. So we looked at it because we know that some areas may not need this technique, but we know in the areas that we're approaching, like the intersection of 121st, we need that. But we know that a couple more areas, as we've moved down to 116th, we've identified that we need that work done. So we have a couple of options on how to achieve this method. And as you'll see in the change order document, we looked at the multiple methods to go about achieving that goal. And after doing a couple of calculations, looking through what's the best method, we chose the method 4, the number 4 item, and that one would work best with the contractor. I think it's best it has the lower cost and achieves the same goal. So essentially, I'm asking for, if you guys are in approval of this change order number 3, if you take a look at that and let us know how you feel. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions?
Yes. Do you foresee any more of this going north? Any more of the same issues going north?
Yes, I do. We've identified at least up to 116th Street that we will have some soils in that area. The volume of soil that we're looking at will be the issue. And so we're trying to basically optimize the area about the work in the area, because as you know, we've had slowdowns, we've had so many issues in this.
But this doesn't specifically add any days to the contract?
No, it doesn't add any days to the contract.
But the question is, do we anticipate this potentially further north? And I think the answer is potentially yes. because,
Potentially yes.
We anticipated this to some degree with the original contract, because I believe some of this was included.
Right.
Anticipated that we may have additional excavation and fill that would need to be put in.
Right, that is correct. And we did have some items that were placed in the area. We just need additional items in the area for the alignment.
Any other questions? Councilman Murray?
Mr. Wilkins, thank you for presenting this.
Sure.
In the past, from city council viewpoint, it seems like we get hit, city gets hit with additional cost on some type of construction going on. I understand sometimes things happen or things are found out about. Would this, should a hydrologist maybe check this? No, I'm getting hydrologist. But no, throwing that out for humor.
Right.
But it's, you know, it gets a little frustrating. I know that, thank you, that we approve something and they go along and said, oh, wait a minute, you know, we got to have more expense. And I understand those things kind of come up. Is doing this lower end of this based on your project of anywhere from 954,000 down to 463, and I know sometimes we have to look at the low bid. Are we putting a Band-Aid on something?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
We're actually fixing a problem.
Okay.
This would have been originally a part of the contract if it would have been identified at the beginning. And I think it was just more bores that should have taken place. Okay, I'm an outsider and I just came in. So, but again, under that, I think we should have had more bores along the alignment of where we were going to excavate, because we've never been there before, you know, and so we didn't know the soil condition. I don't like to look back and say, guys, you should have, you could have. But the fact is, if we had performed those bores, we would have had to have a component like this in the original contract before letting it out.
Yeah, the consulting engineer could have done more borings at different locations than were provided.
Okay.
If that had happened, then this excavation would have been anticipated at the time and would have been included in the original contract. So from our viewpoint, I believe this change order we would have had to have done it anyways. We're just unfortunately finding out about it during the project as opposed to before it.
At the beginning, sure.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
And I understand, like I said, I know things happen, we get change orders, but it just, you know, sitting on this side of the table, it's like, well, wait a minute, why didn't they find this out early? You know, why did they do something more? But you can only do what you can do, and like you said, Mr. Strauss said they only did bore samples in certain areas, and, you know, without doing them right here at that time, then we didn't know, so. Thank you, Anthony.
Mr. Murray, I think that's unfortunately a product of economical construction. When it comes to municipalities, it's pretty common. So just interest. Cheap bid.
Any other questions? All right, back to the item. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to pass item number 8, change order number 3, as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve change order number 3 as presented. On the vote, please.
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes. All right, moving on to number 9, potential executive session. I'd like to get a motion to suspend normal order of business and convene into a executive session.
Make a motion to enter into executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to enter into executive session. On the vote, please.
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move into executive session. We will be back as soon as possible. Thank you. The time is 8:18. We're going to recommence our meeting. And coming out of executive session, there were no decisions made, no actions, I should say. And moving on to other business.
Vice Mayor and members of council, Assistant City Manager Robert Carr has an update on the last of 3 low water dam workshops that was held last Friday.
Good evening again. There was another meeting held last Friday about the low water dam. And I put a summary sheet together here. The first part of all of this you've seen before. This was the 3rd workshop session, and the intent of this session was to talk about environmental aspects of the project that were included in the Corps of Engineers 404 permit. It got pretty complicated, actually. The original permit application was submitted in November of 2015. Then there was a revised application made, and that kicked it into a public comment period that lasted through September of 2016. And a lot of this has to do with biological and aspects of the project and mitigation that was required and management plan, and that was finally done in 2017, and the permit was issued in June of 2020. Then, because nothing happened, they asked for a permit extension that was granted in April of this year. Now, an interesting part to this is that all of the work has to be completed by May 31st of 2030. So it's not a very long time period since the design hasn't been done yet, but that's what's in the permit. Now, some conversation came up about, well, why don't we just go and amend the permit and get rid of some of the provisions that are in the permit? And everybody that had been involved in it previously basically said, no, we don't want to do that. It was a very contentious public comment period. We don't want to open it back up again, so we're just going to stick with what they made for provisions. An example is there has to be a least turn island built to the south of where the dam's going in, and that was a provision because the least turns were on the endangered species list, but they've been removed now in all this time period. So the question is, well, why do we have to do it? Well, because it's in the permit, and we don't want to open the conversation back up again. So that's where that all went. Another aspect was talking about bank stabilization. You know, we have some money that was voted in years ago for bank stabilization, and I was a little surprised at how little the reaches were for bank stabilization. It's not the entire West Bank that has to be done. And for the entire project, there's 8 stabilization areas that only are a little over 5,000 linear feet. And it's a long way to go because this water from the dam is supposed to back up to 0 elevation in the river at about 71st Street. So it goes a number of miles up the road. Then there's public access, 7 public access features. A couple of them are on our side. Like there was supposed to be a place underneath the Turnpike Bridge that would be places where people could go and get by the water and then put kayaks in and things like that. And one of those features requires 300 linear feet of stabilization. That's on the east bank, however. The biggest question that came up about some of this bank stabilization was, did it reflect does what was designed, shown in this design, reflect the 2019 flooding conditions? And the answer was no. Well, are we going to update it? Well, probably so. So just want you to know that. Then there were discussion about the parks on the east and the west side. A lot of amenities were included. I thought the plan was very grandiose. I mean, a lot of vision put into it for things that would be great to have. And that's what I'm saying, great to have. Is it a need? Don't really know the answer. But they included boating access points, emergency boat launching points, some water features, playgrounds, trails, parking lots, things like that were included in the plan. There was no real finalization of that discussion at this meeting. And one of the things that's happening too is that the RAISE grant that we've got that's bringing a trail down from Turkey Mountain, it's supposed to end at the low water dam site. And based on both on the east bank and the west bank on development that has taken place since 2015, that some modifications might have to be made. So it's still a work in progress. Just to give you an idea, I put down here that the West Bank public access facilities in 2015 were going to cost $8.1 million. And I don't know if that's all part of this total project cost or not. They still are going to have the cost data available done by February of next year. And I put down here on the bottom here that when I gave you the last report, the 2015 construction estimate was $67 million. That's the number that they were working from back 10 years ago. When it was brought up at the end of the meeting on Friday, the question was, well, what are we talking about now? And the last time I gave you a number, it was about 125 million, and now they're bumping it up even more to 165 million. And a lot of that includes also some consideration that we can build it, but who's going to maintain it? What's the maintenance cost going to be? And they're trying to build that in. So it's about $100 million more than what the project started out 10 years ago. Just thought I'd tell you.
If I can dovetail off of that too, a lot of the numbers that floated around there near the end there were a lot of anecdotal numbers being tossed around. The final report has to be in by what, December? Isn't that what? I was thinking December of this year is when they have to have the final.
Well, that's when they'll get all their information.
All the information has to be submitted by that.
The final report is due in February.
Right. And for those that are listening, watching online, the 165 million is not just us. That's the city and INCOG and the Tulsa, Muskogee Nation. It's the whole project kind of divvied out. So there's a lot of people that have to contribute to the pie. So, thank you.
And we had put committee reports on this agenda, but depending on if we have any reports, we can also put it on the October 21st agenda as well.
Does anybody have any committee reports?
I was ready for an Economic Development Committee meeting, but if this is a possibility, I've got a couple meetings with some developers in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to go tour a couple of facilities for riverfront development down in Dallas, and so I'd like to probably wait if I could, if council could hold off. I'll probably have a little more information, but needless to say, it's been a busy quarter. We've had multiple Economic Development Committee meetings. There's a significant number of priorities in the city. Lots of different areas that there's a high degree of interest that's really, really fascinating and really cool stuff for the citizens, so, but I'll have a better, probably a more full report than what I was ready to give tonight at the next meeting. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Councilor Short. All right, the time is 8:28. We will call the city council meeting adjourned. And moving on, we will now call the meeting to order for the regular scheduled meeting for the Jenks Public Works Authority. Could we have a roll call, please?
Short.
Here.
Emmons.
Here.
OJ.
Here.
Abel.
Here.
Murray.
Here.
Chair Box. Vice Chair Brown.
Still here. All right, and we have on the order of business, a consent agenda before you. Is there any questions on the consent agenda? Any questions?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any questions? All right, we'll move on to the vote, please.
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Vice Chair Brown.
Yes. And the general manager's report?
We have the engineering project status report in the packet. If you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them.
No questions? All right, the time is 8:30, and we will call the meeting for the Jenks Public Works Authority concluded. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a blessed night.